Hello again, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the channel. Now, I've got a really special guest on this evening, and I'm really excited to speak to this person. I was reached out to by a message, and I'm just going to read the message first. It says, "Hey, Steve, I have followed you on your channel and watched you confront this issue in the streets. I want to thank you for fighting on the right side of history. I actually tried to reach out to you before, but struggled to find any info to reach out beyond your YouTube channel. You recently uploaded an interview with a trans man, Dimitri, who made some great points. I'm also trans, but like Dimitri, on the side of common sense, I'm very against targeting of kids. I've spoken about this previously on some podcasts, but generally remained fairly quiet on social media. I am quite a reserved person. Unlike the alphabet clowns, it is not the defining aspect of my personality. I'd be happy to speak with you on these topics if you'd like. And then LinkedIn, Instagram, and emails. Thank you again for all you're doing." Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to bring on Lola. Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I understand that you've got a little bit of a problem with your throat.
Oh yeah, I sound a little bit like Marge Simpson. It's for months now. I don't know what's going on, but smoking doesn't help.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
you can understand me, okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah, when you're not cutting out. You just
Right.
keep cutting out every couple of minutes, but
All right. Okay.
we'll see how we go.
Okay. So in the message that you sent me, you identified yourself as trans. So do you just want to tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Okay, so I'm Lola. I'm 33 and I transitioned 8 years ago now. And while your sign says there's no such thing as transgender kids, and I agree, there isn't, there is gender dysphoria amongst kids. And, like you've said before, most do come out of it. So it's not something that I feel should be encouraged to any child. You tell any kid that they can be somebody else. Kids love playing imaginary games and dressing up and playing as characters and stuff. Of course, if you tell a child that they can be anything they want, they're going to love that idea and play along with it. So I just think it's really insidious the way that it's being taught to kids as it's something that's normal now. And the exact opposite actually happened to me. Instead of it being encouraged, even though I was very, very clearly very different, to anybody, I will have just seemed like a gay kid. I've always been very, very super feminine from day one. But yeah, I've had the opposite of what's happening to kids now. I had everybody fighting against me. My mum didn't support me. She tried to beat everything feminine out of me my entire childhood. She never gave me an inch once. I wasn't allowed anything pink. She was really, really hard on me, to be honest. And then I remember in school, one of my teachers, I confided in her and told her that I think I'm trans. And I was about 13 when this happened. Now, this wouldn't happen now, but she literally turned around and went, no. I don't think you are. Forget about that. And obviously I was a kid and she was a grown-up and I respected her. I listened to her and I did. I just grew up and got on with my life. And I didn't make this decision until I was an adult. I was 25 when I started transitioning officially. So it was my choice, right or wrong, whether it's a mental disorder or not. I agree it probably is, and I'm okay with that. I accept the fact that I have a mental disorder. I accept the fact that I'm biologically male. I know what chromosomes I have. I know what I have between my legs. And this has never been a problem for most people. I think trans acceptance and things was fine until this political campaign of forcing it on kids and putting men in women's sports and telling, middle-aged men having a midlife crisis that they can go into women's bathrooms if they feel like it. All this madness, it's actually doing a disservice to real trans people like myself, and I've tried to distance myself from that community as much as possible because I don't like what I'm seeing. Yeah, there's a lot of deranged people now. You're coming into contact with a lot of them.
Yes.
I think you're very brave for going into Brighton.
Yeah, it
Very
was a bit crazy down there, really was. There's so many more videos to come yet. In
really
fact, by the time this goes out, I think most of those videos would have been shown.
right. Yeah, I watched another one that I think did you upload one yesterday?
Um,
Or
I
is
think
this
it was 2 days ago, 2
right?
or 3 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yesterday.
the first thing that you mentioned was gender dysphoria. Now, funny you should mention that because on my doorstep this morning or this afternoon landed a copy of the DSM-5 because I want to learn. Are you aware of what the DSM-5 is?
Yeah.
So that's the
In,
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychological Disorders,
all right.
and gender dysphoria is listed in the DSM-5.
Yeah.
So it's a big, thick manual. I wish I'd have brought it in with me. It's in the other room, so I won't rush off and get it now. But it lists all these psychological disorders. Now, I was speaking to a lady last night called Taylor, and she said to me that gender dysphoria doesn't exist. It's a made-up condition. And I said, okay, well, I've listened to people like yourself that has said that they have this gender dysphoria.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it's just a way of them being able to medicalize a condition. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but so what I'd like for you to tell me is what you believe gender dysphoria is. And you said you started feeling it as a child. So do you just want to take us back to your childhood and tell us about the feelings that you had in relation to gender dysphoria?
Well, I'm not gonna say I felt like I was trapped in the wrong body or anything like that. I'm not gonna say that I knew I was a girl or I wanted to be a girl. I was just acting um what came natural to me, and that was everything girly, everything pink. I used to fight over the wedding dress in nursery with all the girls, and obviously because I have a biological advantage, I won every time. So I had the wedding dress on every day at nursery.
Right.
Um, Again, I'm not saying this is gender dysphoria or it means that kids are trans because kids like dressing up and playing and they go through phases all the time. But this, for me at least, wasn't a phase. Um, and like I said, despite being told no by everyone around me and being bullied as well, if anything, it made me dig my heels in a little bit more and just be myself, be true to myself however I can. Is gender dysphoria a real medical thing? I don't know, to be honest. I think Taylor, did you say? I think
Yeah.
she's got a point. I think she has a point where they are over medicalizing everything and they are adding labels and names to things which probably didn't exist not so long ago. And obviously, it's to promote the pharmaceutical industry and the mental health
Yeah.
drugs. It all goes along with that. Um, you know, I'm unsure whether I think ADHD and things like that are even a real thing. Or if it's just a personality type, or if it's
Well,
just dopamine damage.
yeah, again, these things are listed in that DSM-5 manual, which enables them to medicate for it.
This is what I mean. I don't know if I agree that they are all medical things. Like autism, for example, we know that that is a real thing where the brain works differently.
Yeah,
And I actually think a lot of these kids now that are saying they're trans and non-binary and stuff, I actually think a lot of them are just autistic or somewhat on the spectrum. Probably don't have very many friends, probably not very interesting people. So now all of a sudden they can be part of a group that gets celebrated and, gets they get included in a group and get celebrated and stuff. So that's very enticing for people who, maybe are a little bit socially awkward and don't have any friends or anything really going for them. Now they can claim this identity and it makes them feel I don't want to say relevant, but I suppose it is relevant now, isn't it? It makes them feel special, maybe. I don't know. I
yeah, you're right.
I think that's what a lot of these trans kids actually are. Is they're just lonely outcast kids who've found a group and they've latched onto it because it makes them feel good because they're all virtue signaling and kissing each other's asses. Can I swear, by the way?
Yeah, you can. It's you. You can. We can get away with a lot of stuff on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't know if they like the PDF file. You know where I'm going with that one. I don't know if they like that word.
I'll say nonce. They use nonce.
Yeah. So a couple of interesting things you said there. I've been listening to a guy called, I don't know if you know him, Az Akeem. He's a clinical psychologist, I think, a doctor in psychology. And he's generalizing here, but he said that people identifying as trans fall into three broad categories. Let me just remind myself of them. He said, as you mentioned, they're either autistic, that was one, and or they're gay and they're struggling with that identity, or they've suffered some kind of childhood trauma.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, well, it could be those. It could be a combination. You've cut off again.
Oh, sorry. My question would be: do any of those? Am I back?
No, it keeps doing this.
I think it might be your
I'll wait
phone.
until you come back.
For me. My question would
having
be:
trouble connecting. This is often caused by an unstable internet connection.
It may be your. I've got you. Am I? We're having trouble here now. At London's End,
this is not good.
You look. It's really clear on my side. Oh, she's gone. Are we good?
We're good. You cut off then, and it didn't come back.
Yeah, no worries. This is fine because I can edit this section out.
Okay. Cool.
I think it was your side because it was looking really good here. I could hear you and see you all the time.
Yeah, I can hear you and see you crystal clear when you're there, but then it just occasionally goes black and cuts off.
Okay, right. Yeah. What I'll do, I'll go back to that last point because I had a kind of question for that.
Okay.
So what we were talking about is the three broad categories, okay, of autistic, maybe gay struggling with their identity,
or trauma,
or suffered some kind of trauma. And my question to you would be: do you fall in any of those three categories at all?
Well, I'm not. I don't have any issues with my sexuality. I've always been very, very comfortably into boys. Very, very young. I've always been interested in boys. So my sexuality is not an issue. Trauma, I suppose trauma can be subjective and defined. There's all kinds of childhood trauma now, but there was nothing specific or particularly bad that set me off like this that I can remember. No one thing. So no, it's not that. And what was the other one? What was the first one?
That was it. So that was it. Autistic, and I can pretty see clearly you're not autistic.
Well, do you know what? I could be on the spectrum. Who knows? Like this, they say we all are a little bit now, don't we? Everything's so poisoned. Like I'm not surprised that autism and stuff is rife now. I'm even open to the idea that the reason I'm like this is due to environmental poisoning. I had a lot of vaccines as a kid.
Okay.
My mum isn't the healthiest of person. I think she drank and smoked when she was carrying me. She was on the pill. You know, all of these things that I think can wreak havoc on a developing fetus. You know, maybe I'm a product of that. Maybe one kid becomes autistic and one kid comes like me. I don't know.
Yeah, so they were basically the three broad groups, and I mean, I don't think they have to sit in isolation either. They could be, you know, a few intermingling factors, a bit of a Venn diagram kind of thing. But one thing you did say is you're comfortable with your sexuality. Now, are you aware of a guy called Richie Herron? He's a detransitioner. So he went through the full bottom surgery and regretted it immediately. But what he said is he always liked boys. I'll let you finish your drink. Okay, yeah. So Richard Herron said he was into boys, but for some kind of internalized homophobia, he couldn't see him being with another boy in a sexual relationship. However, if he identified as being trans, that was okay.
Yeah,
Does
because
that
straight then in his mind.
say again?
Yeah, because he's kind of in a straight relationship then in his mind, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Do you think
But,
that applies to you at all?
no, I don't feel any shame in my sexuality at all.
Right.
None whatsoever. I don't feel it. I'm actually very happy with the person that I am.
Right.
I'm very confident in the person that I am. And I think that's why I was able to transition confidently on my own as an adult without, even after being told no by everyone. It's because I'm sure of myself. I'm sure of who I am. So yeah, I forgot my point I was going to make. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we were talking about Richie Herring, and it appears that you differ on that point because he just couldn't handle the fact that he was with another guy as a guy, but as a girl that would be fine. If you don't know Richie's story, this is to you and to the people that watching. Go and check out Richie Herring. He's a fantastic guy, and he's a detransitioner now, and he's got a really, really interesting story to tell. So Richie had the bottom surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to tell us how far you've gone down your transition process?
Yeah, I'm fully intact down there. I've not had bottom surgery, and I don't want it doing either. It's a very brutal operation that they're still very much in experimental stage with. They're still like guinea pigging people. They
Yeah.
don't really know what they're doing, and it's really. I've had a lot of surgeries, so I'm not afraid of surgery, but that is a brutal surgery that I am scared of, and I don't feel dysphoria to my downstairs bits.
Okay.
I felt dysphoria for anything like masculine physical traits that I had. So when I got facial hair as a teen, like I remember that I felt so ugly when I started to get that little shadow come through. And then obviously your face changes, doesn't it, in puberty, and you grow and you get bigger and stuff. I hated it. I hated puberty. Even then, I wasn't going through it thinking, oh, I want to be a girl, I want to be a girl. I've had to figure this out, on my own as an adult, which is the correct way to do it. I think if someone is going to do this, they have to do it as an adult and they have to make their own decision up. It shouldn't be encouraged by a teacher or by a crazy parent or something,
Yeah.
But it is now. And that's where I take issue with it.
Yeah.
Because these people, like the people that you're coming into contact with, they're so far removed from reality that they don't realize the harm that they're causing. They think that they're all about love and inclusivity, but it's not. They're just about dominating you and making you agree with them. And if you don't like it, then you're gonna get food thrown at you like you did.
That's one of the reasons I say it's a cult, because it's got many trademarks of a cult. They won't.
They all believe what they believe in, but they don't know why they believe it. They don't have any arguments for why they believe it. They just believe it anyway. That's a cult.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Take your time. Take your time. So, yeah. So you've not had the bottom surgery, but you've obviously had implants above. What other surgeries have you had? And tell us about those procedures. And because we talked about Big Pharma, and I think this is Big Pharma led to a degree, do you want to tell us about the costs as well?
Okay. So I've had full facial feminization surgery, which it's pretty hardcore to most people, but it's not as hardcore as a fake vagina. That's scary to me. But yeah, it's all bone work and stuff. So I've had my jawbone softened and my brow. I used to have a forehead, like manly forehead. So I've had that shaved down.
Wow.
2 boob jobs, couple of nose jobs. That's it, really.
Wow. So when you say, just explain a little bit more about the facial feminization surgery, because most people will understand what, you know, boob jobs are, but
Yeah.
tell us a bit more about that, about
Okay.
the facial surgery.
It's basically bone work. So it's usually always a maxillofacial surgeon. So that's like a surgeon who's a dentist as well, who can do bone work on your jaw and stuff. But yeah, basically they cut me from here to here, pulled my skin back, and remodeled my forehead. I know it's brutal.
Do they
And
have to break this? They have to break the skull to do that, right?
they removed my sinus bone. So this bone here, I think it must just pop out or something because they remove it, remodel it, like drill it down and stuff, and then they put it back in with a screw.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the same for my jaw. They go inside your mouth like this, and like they cut all your jawbone down and soften it and whatever. It's very clever actually. What they can do now.
And did they do all that in one surgery?
Two surgeries. Two
Right.
surgeries in 1 month. I went to Mumbai in India for it all doing.
Wow.
I paid like 30 grand, I think, in total. If I'd have got that done here, it'd have been like 100 grand. Everything that
100 grand.
around,
Wow.
yeah.
And have you had some kind of, do they call it electrolysis to stop facial hair growing?
I've been having laser hair removal since before I even transitioned. So like when I was 18, I just hated the hairiness, you know. So I started having that done when I was 18 or 19.
Okay. Are you on any cross-sex hormones at all? So do you take estrogen?
I take estrogen, yeah. I take like it's a gel that I put on. It soaks into your skin because the tablets are bad for your liver.
Right.
So this way it bypasses that and just goes straight into your bloodstream. I don't take testosterone blockers um, because I think that makes people go crazy. I think we need testosterone. You know, women have testosterone too. You know, it's like a balancing act. They just have slightly more estrogen, whereas trans people are having the testosterone completely removed and then artificial estrogen put in. I think that's just, I think it's a recipe for more mental health problems than they've already got.
And maybe future physical health problems as well.
Well, yeah, there's the I think one of the main reasons why this is happening, why this is being pushed so much, is because we're in the middle of a depopulation agenda, aren't we? So if you can convince a lot of kids to sterilize themselves, or at least damage their reproductive health for the rest of their life, you know, or just ruin the life by doing this when they don't want to, and then they decide to change their mind when they're older, probably commit suicide because they've ruined their life. You know, it's just less people for it's less people on Earth, which is what they want, isn't it?
So where do you think this is coming from? Who's
Uh,
pushing this?
well, it's a top down thing, isn't it? So it's, the media are doing it, the government are doing it. They're all kind of in cahoots. We can sit and debate about who's really controlling things. You know, is it the Club of Rome? Is it the Jesuits? Is it all of these different Council on Foreign Relations? All of these different
Yeah.
letter organisations that nobody really knows about. I think they're all one big team, really.
Right. Okay. So you said, remind me again how long it's been since your transition. Did you say you was 25?
8 years, yeah.
It's been 8 years.
Mhm.
So you obviously, to me, I mean, we've not met in person, you know, but I've seen your pictures on your Instagram and I've seen you now, you know, on the screen, and you pass very well as a woman. You know, it's, you know, it kind of like it's. I'm not joking. It is messing with my head a little bit. You know, just as it did when I spoke to Dimitri, because Dimitri had a bushier beard than me, but
Yeah.
Dimitri was a female, you know, and you know, just like you, wasn't you know, hadn't convinced, you know, herself that she was a man,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So I suppose what I'm saying is, do you ever get noticed as a man, or do you always pass as a woman?
Um, to be honest with you, I'm kind of in a world of my own most of the time. I have very, very thick skin.
Right.
Obviously, being like this my entire life. I don't mean trans. I just mean very feminine, very different, very in your face. Always been like this. I've always got unwanted attention, even before
Right.
transition. So what happens now when I go in public is I sort of switched off and go into tunnel division mode. But I will say I always get received very positively wherever I go, whether they know that I'm trans or not. I always get received very well from both men and women. Um, and I put that down to energy. To be honest, I put it down to energy. I think the reason people are trans people or fake trans people or whatever, why they're having so many issues now is because they're going into women's spaces, they're taking up women's spaces in sports.
Yeah.
We've got autogynephile perverts going in women's toilets. All this stuff, that's man energy. That's not. I think I've got feminine energy, and that's why women don't feel threatened by me if I go in a women's bathroom. It could be because I look the way that I do, but I've never had any problems ever. I would have problems if I walked into a men's bathroom.
Right.
And
Okay.
probably agree with me on that for obvious reasons. I would probably get more negative attention if I walked into a men's room. But to be honest with you, I don't really like using public toilets anyway. And if the option's there, I'll go for a disabled me. I'd rather have my own toilet all to myself.
Do you ever find that there's always that third option?
What, the disabled toilet?
Yeah.
If there's a disabled toilet there and no one's in it, I'll go in that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I like my own space and I don't have to wait then, do I?
Yeah.
But it's about respect as well. I don't want to. I've wanted to transition and cause the least amount of attention to myself. I don't want to cause problems. I don't want to upset anyone when I go in spaces and stuff. Like when I go to the gym, for example, I go to the gym, but I don't go in the women's changing room. I probably could do, and I probably wouldn't have any problems. But I don't want to go in there, and I would never go in there and get changed in front of a woman. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't put them through it. I think it's wrong, and that's
So, yeah, you've kind of like you.
But these big grown hairy ass men are doing it, and they're obviously doing it for different reasons. But this is the difference in energy. I'm not about that. I don't trouble.
Yeah, because you've stumped me a little bit because what you'd said previously, I had a question in my head. It wasn't a kind of like a gotcha moment or anything like that, but you've kind of answered it because you said, you don't agree with men going into women's spaces. And then you said that you had gone into female toilets.
Oh, yeah, I used female toilets before, yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say then to those women that just say, I don't want a penis in my toilets?
That's fair enough. If honestly, I don't know how I would react in a real life moment where that happened because it's never happened to me. But I think if it did, if I really made somebody feel uncomfortable, I would just leave. I wouldn't argue with them. I'd just leave. But I'm quite good at assessing who's around me and what type of environment I'm in. And if I felt like somebody wasn't going to like it or I was going to cause an issue for someone, I wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't put myself in that situation, which is the difference between me and this Lily Tino freak, who's literally going around taking pictures in women's bathrooms, trying to be seen, trying to make an issue of it, and it's just like it's so far from what real trans people want to do. Most real trans people just want to be passed and not cause a disturbance and just be left alone. It used to be about transitioning and causing the least amount of upset around you. Blending in as much as you can. That's what it used to be about. Now it's all about look at me, celebrate me, fucking rainbows on my ass. And it's gone too far the other way. And this is why people like yourself have to appear and remind people of common sense because they're so far gone from it now. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, I'm here.
I'm still rambling on.
Yeah, no, I'm here to. People are here to listen to you. We've done the estrogen. We've done the cost. Yeah, that I suppose. You might have answered this anyway, but can I bring a picture from your Instagram up?
Yeah.
And
Right.
it was just the quote on it that I was really interested in. Okay, so this is your Instagram for people that might want to follow you. So it's Lola Christina X, and at the bottom it says, hold on, it's really small on my screen. Let me bring it up. Yeah, so it says feeling like a Disney princess without the noncy vibes. Can you just elaborate on what you meant?
Well, that was just in reference to Disney being run by paedophiles.
Ah, right.
It wasn't anything about trans nonsense. It was specifically about Disney being full of nonsense.
Well,
Walt Disney himself, even.
yeah, I did. I actually did hear about that.
I'm sure you've seen like some of the subliminal messages and stuff that have been put in Disney films, like when it says in the clouds, and there's dozens of examples. This is all dirty perverts that have done that on purpose, and it's targeting kids, isn't it? So that's
Yeah,
all I meant. That was I felt like a Disney princess, but
yeah. So because I was wondering, yeah, no, I was wondering. You talked about, and there's a big thing about AGPs and autogynephiles and men getting a sexual kick out of imagining themselves as a woman. And I was just wondering, and people might see them as being a little bit noncy,
yeah. Well,
maybe not. So the condition of autogynephilia, do you think that could be appropriated to you? Is it on a sliding scale?
oh
Do you
no, I'm nothing like that. I listen. I don't get turned on when I put my knickers on. I'm just going about life the way I feel most comfortable. And I'm at my happiest and most confident when I'm like this. You
yeah,
know, whether it's because of environmental poisoning, whether it's because of trauma, whether it's because I was raised without a father, it could be all of these things. I really don't know. All I know is that I'm happiest like this. Um,
that's interesting. So you had no male role models when you were
no,
growing
not
up?
growing up. No, I grew up with my mum and my sister. And again, that's another. They say that this could be a contributing factor to
Oh,
it.
yeah, it's interesting.
I'm open to it. I'm not saying yes or no to anything. I have a relationship with my dad now. Um,
Right,
I actually met him when I just began my transition. So he never met me before
right, okay,
he met me in the very early days. Um, and we're very close now. Um, and I've got brothers and everything on his side. We're all really close. So yeah.
and what did he say? What did he make of it when you told him that you were transitioning?
My dad is he didn't really have a choice today because he didn't raise me.
Yeah,
Um, and we found each other when I was 25. I'm a fully grown adult. He can either accept me how I am, and have a relationship with me, or he cannot. And luckily, he fully accepts me the way I am, and I think he's proud of me and happy with who I am. He's never given me any impression to think otherwise.
yeah,
So yeah, I've
yeah,
got a relationship with my dad. It's actually better than my relationship with my mum.
right.
Um, whatever
Right.
that means.
Okay. So can we talk a little bit about relationships?
Sure.
Yeah. Are you in a relationship at the moment?
I'm not now. No, I've been
No.
single 2 years in October.
Okay. So if you go out on a night out,
Mm-mm.
have you ever had any like heterosexual males hitting on you thinking that you're a female
Every time I go out.
every time you go? I thought you was going to say that
It
because obviously you are.
happens when I fucking walk to a
Sorry.
shop
You look like
sometimes.
sorry.
It happens in supermarket.
Right.
Fuck
Okay.
off again.
Are you there?
Oh, this is annoying. You're
Are
not
you there?
back yet.
Yeah.
Well, asking about my ex-boyfriend.
Well, we're talking about like when you're out. Obviously,
All
you
right.
pass very, very well as a female,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll have men, hitting on you. Has there ever been any awkward situations at all? Just explain to me what it goes like. Say you're out in a club at night.
I don't make it like the center point of conversation, unless maybe I like him back or something, or I think it's going to go somewhere. Then I'll make sure that he knows, before any confusion is there. But if it's someone who I'm not interested in, or I'm just talking to, I don't make it the first thing I tell people, because it's not a defining part of who I am.
Yeah.
And if I'm not sleeping with you, then you don't need to know anyway, do you?
Yeah.
You've cut off again.
Yeah. So how does it go? And I know I'm kind of digging a little bit deep here, as long as you don't mind talking about it, because I think it's what's going to be on everybody's mind, because it is on my mind. So when a guy thinks that he's trying to pull a woman, and then you reveal to him that you're a male, how does that go down?
Well, like I say, I would only tell them that if I like them back and if I was going to go somewhere. If it's just a bloke chatting me up, you don't need to know, because it's not, nothing's going to happen anyway. But if it's someone who I like, or I will tell them, no problem, because it's not a secret. I'm not ashamed of it. And to be honest with you, if it's just sex, and they think the mates won't find out, 9 out of 10 times they're all up for it. It's a fantasy for a lot of blokes, or it's like a bucket. Yeah, that's a product of 2025. I don't think that all these men are bi or gay or whatever. I think porn has a lot to answer for.
Right.
I think porn has created a lot of desensitization, and it's created a lot of fantasies and things like that in men's heads. And trans women are just one of those things, I think. So yeah, a lot of the time it doesn't put them off. But if it's for something like a relationship, something serious, that's a different ball game.
Right. Yeah.
That's a different kettle of fish. It takes a different kind of man to openly date a girl and still feel confident in his sexuality and not be ashamed of it. And that's a different story.
Yeah, so I guess what they'll do, like you say, it could be porn, it could be a fantasy, or within their head, what they're seeing, in their mind, they're seeing a woman, so they're going to convince themselves.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite high, 9 out of 10. Wow.
So yeah.
You mentioned porn, and see, I'm a little bit green in this issue, right? Because I've heard, since I've been going out on the streets, people saying the word sissy porn. I've no idea what that is. I don't know what it is. Seriously, I can maybe think, what is it?
It's basically sissy is basically, it's a guy, so it's not a trans person. It's a guy who's sort of dressed up a bit girly. So it'd be like a really camp gay boy with mascara on,
right,
and some knickers, like sort of half cross-dressing. That's what a sissy is.
Right. Okay. And then
I can't believe that's been mentioned to you.
Yeah, no, people have said it. Somebody accused me of having a fetish on it, and I didn't know what it was. And then somebody else mentioned that a lot of the AGPs, the autogynephiles, are into sissy porn. So I've never ever seen it. I've got. I mean, I'm happily married. I've got no intention of watching it, but I have been curious.
That's what autogynephiles are. They're like sissies. Right. They like wearing girl stuff because they like to feel girly, but they don't really want to be a woman. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's a dress up thing for sex usually, as far as I understand it. Anyway, wow. I'm not into sissies either. So
right, okay. No worries. Yeah. So are you aware of? We talked about I'm just changing back to where it was a while ago. We talked about a top-down issue. Are you aware of like some of the billionaire funders that are AGPs, or allegedly AGPs, like Jennifer Pritzker and Martine Rothblatt?
I'm not. No.
All right. So
this is interesting. I'll leave cough again.
Oh no.
Oh, just as it was getting good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting quite annoyed with this now. This happened last week when I was trying to do a podcast with my friend. And I thought it was her end, but obviously it's my end, isn't it?
It seems like it, yeah. We'll wrap it up pretty soon, and it just means a lot more editing for me. But you know, it's all right. It's not your fault. It's just it's the technology.
It's because I don't have Wi-Fi. Probably I have
Right.
it.
Okay.
I have like Ethernet wired in
Right.
because I don't want to microwave myself. But
Yeah. No. Good point. So yeah. So there's a couple of billionaire funders. Jennifer Pritzker is one of them,
I've
and
heard of
Martin
these
Rothblatt.
on me.
Yeah, and they fund a lot of the universities, and you know, the University of California in Los Angeles, Victoria University in Canada, they're responsible for a lot of the gender studies courses getting into these universities, and you know, I kind of like put two and two together, and I believe that they're autogynephiles, and they just want to normalize their sexual fetish.
Yeah, quite possible. I'm
Yeah,
more maybe. Yeah, wouldn't
yeah.
surprise.
So it, it's been really good listening to you because you know my beliefs. I go out on the street and I said, you know, if you're an adult and you want to transition and identify as what you wish, as long as your actions do not adversely affect anybody else, I say go and
Yeah,
live a happy life. So I can do
you've
nothing
cut off
more.
again. Bloody hell.
Are we
Yeah,
back?
we're back. It's just
Are we
going to
back?
keep doing this, isn't it? So I
Yeah,
do.
that's okay. We'll round. I was kind of like
We're,
rounding it up then anyway. So, like I say, as long as people can identify as whatever they like, as long as their, you know, actions do not adversely affect anybody else,
yeah,
then
do what you
have
want.
a
As long
great
as
life.
you're not hurting anyone. I think most people would agree with that. You
Yeah,
know, but people now believe that even having opinions like ours is harmful. You know, that you can't even have an opinion that they disagree with. You've cut
yeah,
off again, but if you can still hear me, um, I would actually like to accompany you when you do your outreach thing
yeah.
one time, because I'd be very interested to see them argue with me. You know, they can call you a bigot and they can throw food at you and they can disagree with you and say you're being hateful. But I think it'd be very interesting to see them say that to me. Especially since none of those people that you're interacting with are actually trans, are they? Most of the time. They're just
No,
virtually signaling left wing idiots that don't know any better. What are they going to do if they actually see me stood there? It probably wouldn't be a very good video because they wouldn't have very many interactions. They'd just leave. They
I
wouldn't
think
even
we
argue.
would.
How can they argue with me?
Yeah, I think they would. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it keeps
Yeah,
cutting off.
brilliant. You know, I was gonna suggest that as well. So we'll make arrangements and we'll do it. I think that would be great. What
I'm up for that.
don't tell me what part of the country you're in now. We'll talk after this is finished and
Right.
we'll make arrangements to get out on the streets together. That would be fantastic.
Cool. I'll have to try and be as calm as you though, Stephen, because I don't possess your calmness when confronted with crazy people. I'm a bit of a bulldog, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Yeah.
Especially if I feel like someone's being bullied, and when they're all surrounding you, you know, like that. That honestly, I think my blood boils just watching it on telly. So I can
Yeah.
only imagine what I'll be like when I'm
Yeah.
there. But
No, we'll do it. So if I know you said you have a low profile on social media, but we did bring up your Instagram.
I
So
don't,
should I put?
I don't mind sharing.
Yeah. So I mean, we did. That's correct, isn't it? Lola Christina X.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to follow you on Instagram, is there anywhere else that you'd like that people can follow you, or is it just that?
It's mainly that. I have got some other socials, but they're for other things. I've got Twitter, but I promote my OnlyFans on Twitter. So
Oh, you
I
didn't go
recommend
into that.
any viewers go
You
looking up.
didn't. You didn't tell me about that.
Yes, I kept that quiet, didn't I? It's
Do
not
you,
as, but again, I'm not exactly proud of it, so I don't scream and shout about it too much.
right. Do you want to quickly get into that before we go? Because that's quite interesting.
I do.
Just tell me about your OnlyFans.
So it's all I do for work now. It's my sole income. I've been on it 7 years, something like that,
Okay.
and I've consistently stayed in the top earners percentage from the beginning, really. So yeah, I wasn't built to work a 9 to 5 or be told what to do by anyone. I don't deal with authority very well, so I wouldn't last 5 minutes in a regular job. I need to be able to work for myself and do what I want. Call me spoiled, but it works for me, you know, because it's
Yeah.
not work, and it pays well. And
I was going to say, you can. Do you know what? I missed a trick. I did have that question. I went through them all, and it got disappeared. One of the top questions was, "How do you earn a living?"
there you go.
And there you go. And I've heard it can be, as you said, it can be quite lucrative.
Yeah. Well, this is what I mean, because porn is so crazy and popular now, and trans porn especially has boomed in the last sort of 5-10 years. Around the same time that it's all kind of boomed in mainstream society, it's become more and more popular on porn sites as well. But I don't think that's organically because of trans people. I think that's the process. What happens when men watch porn? They get more grey matter in the brain, and the dopamine receptors get damaged, and then they end up looking for the next best thing or the more extreme thing, you know.
Right.
And so they slowly end up watching tranny porn, you know, because they've been so desensitized to everything before that. So I don't think it's a natural progression. I think it's porn brain damage, basically.
Wow. So is it? Would you say?
This is why I'm not like screaming and shouting about it.
So would you say it's mainly straight men that actually go on your OnlyFans? I know nothing. I know it's a way of making money through porn, but I don't know how it works. Do you want to explain, like, you know, is it a kind of one-on-one thing? Is it a group thing? You know,
it's basically like a Facebook page, so
right.
they can subscribe to you or follow you or whatever, and they can see like your wall where you post free stuff. But if they want to see anything hardcore, they have to pay for it
Right.
in the messages, and they buy stuff individually, or they'll send money like per message, you know, to speak to me. It might cost a few dollars per message or something, but it all adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you ever have like a one-to-one with a, do you know, like we're doing now, like one-to-one? Do you have those as well?
Yeah, I do video calls and stuff as well. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
And it's I would say 10 times out of 10, it's straight men who have either got a little bit of a fantasy or a little bit of a confusion, or I don't know, you know. Some men aren't even really interested in my cock. They just fancy me, you know. And they might not want to see that, you know. That's happened before as well. Like, they're still attracted to me, but they want to kind of pretend that that's not happening, which doesn't really make sense. Like, but you know, it happens.
And what kind of demographic are they? What age group are the men that come?
It varies from legal to 80, 90-year-olds.
Wow. And geographically, where are they from?
All over the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's kind of like, well, it's not blown my mind, but it's something that, you know, I'm 54 now, but well, you said people go on it up until the age of 80, so I suppose I'm like somewhere in the middle.
Plenty of time, yeah.
As I said, I'm happily married with my beautiful wife Sue.
Stay that way.
Of course, as a younger guy, I used to look at Pornhub, but I can't remember. Seriously, can't remember the last time I looked at it. I've no need.
You've got a healthy brain. I think people underestimate how addictive porn is.
Right.
It works on the same part of your brain that heroin does. Like, they've done brain scans and stuff on people when people are on heroin and when people are watching porn, and the same part of the brain lights up. You know, the people are literally addicted to it.
And it's a dopamine hit, is it?
It's a dopamine hit, yeah. And then the more they do it, they get less of a hit, which is why they end up looking for something more extreme, you know, amputee porn or midget porn or trannies or whatever it is.
Right.
They get bored with just regular plain old women.
Wow.
And again, I believe that's by design as well, to again reduce population by destroying relationships.
Wow.
Because it's destroying relationships between men and women. Yeah, it's so multi-layered. Is this why it's crazy? I could go on for ages about it, but
yeah. So just the last question on that. You said you ranked quite high in the top earners. Where's your ranking then in OnlyFans?
I'm not sure, to be honest now. I think it's about 0.8 I'm below the 0.1s. I think I'm like 0.45 at the moment or something, which is not the best it's been. But I will say it used to be a lot easier to get into the 1% years ago. It's exploded in popularity now. I think I saw a study that said something like 50% of 18 to 25-year-old girls in America are on OnlyFans. 50%.
Wow.
Which is a lot, and because of this, because it's become a business model, and because people have realized you can make big money on it, there's people treating it like a business now,
Yeah.
running it for you and all that lot. So there's a lot more competition now. It's a lot harder to get into the 1% now than it was 7 years ago when I started.
And you've been in that top 1% now for how long?
7 years.
Wow. So you're minted.
Oh no, I won't say I'm minted. I live comfortably.
Yeah.
I don't want for anything. If there's anything I want, I can have it, but
Yeah.
I'm not minted. I wish I were.
Right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, my philosophy, as long people can identify and do what they wish, as long as it doesn't adversely affect anybody else. And I think you're living that kind of lifestyle. So, it's a big thumbs up from me, really, I suppose, because you're not trying to. The only thing that I probably would have issue with is because you're still a male. If you went into a female toilet,
well, that's fine. I don't need to do that really. Like I said, I don't feel any sort of way about doing that now.
Yeah.
Probably because of how I look. I genuinely don't get a second look whenever I. I've been in Mumbai airport, so it's full of Indian women where they're all squatting on the floor and stuff. I've gone in there and I don't get a second look from anyone. Okay. Nobody looks at me twice. Yeah. So that tells me that I'm not causing a disturbance. So, and I'm going to do my business. I'm not going in there to cause trouble. If I was making someone feel uncomfortable for any reason, and that may just happen one day now, with all this bullshit that's happening, with all these men going into women's toilets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm on about the perverts. With
that's the issue, isn't it?
It's putting women on the guard, and if they see me and they notice, they might be on guard and feel like they have to say something to me. And I've never had that happen to me before, so I don't know how I would react. But the last thing I want to do is upset anyone, which is why I go in women's now. Because if I went into a man's toilet now, that's going to cause more of a disturbance,
Yeah,
but
especially in Mumbai airport.
Yeah, well, this is that. I'm not going to go in a men's toilet. I'm just not going to do it. But if there's a disabled option free, that's always my preference.
Go for that. Yeah, of course.
Mentally disabled toilet.
Yeah, so let's wrap it up then. Is there anything that you'd like to say finally to anybody before we wrap it up? Because you know the type of audience, and you've seen the comments in the YouTube, in the comment section on YouTube. So, is there any kind of message you want to give to those people?
I don't know really. I've just wanted to speak to you because I want people to understand that not all trans people are like them. Okay, not all trans people are like them. Crazy people that want you to think like them, and if you don't, you're a bigot and you're a bad person, and all that. Some of us are normal, and real trans people, like real trans people with gender dysphoria, it's something like 0.03% of the population. Right. It's a tiny number, and the numbers now are not reflective of that. These are people who are attention seeking. In my opinion, they're wanting attention, they're wanting to be celebrated, and they're wanting to be angry about something. They're pretending that they don't have rights or something. There's no rights that you have that I don't have.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'd say to them.
With something, don't they? And it's just I want people to understand that we're not all like that.
Yeah,
so we do have a brain.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and you know what? It's given me a lot of food for thought speaking to you.
Thank you for talking to me. It's been very good.
Excellent.
Light on things.
Yeah, and we'll speak again, no doubt. Thank you very much.